We're going to be looking at exploring tournament hosting in Africa, the socio-economic impact and legacies. That is what is coming up next. And to drive the conversation, to ask all the questions, and to moderate this session, he is the head of sports of Happy FM, and a seasoned journalist, traveled and covered many competitions. So he's seen many country hosting competitions, very in the thick of sports in Ghana. He's the big man here, Brenya Ohene Bampoe. Please give it up for him as he joins us. Yeah, Brenya, that's your microphone. At least for the time being. Yes. Well, you've been to many tournaments across the continent and beyond. When you've gone to cover tournaments in Africa, do you ever have a sense of wanting to go back to these countries for vacation or for business?
Absolutely. I was talking to John about Ivory Coast just some few.
Oh, you enjoyed Ivory Coast. I missed out.
Absolutely.
They called me for TV. Next time, don't call me.
Felix is here. We went out one night at around 11 p.m. When we got out of the place, it was around 6 a.m.
Wow.
And that's Cocody and Abidjan life for you.
Fantastic.
Absolutely magical.
Anyway, so then let's get into this conversation. Exploring tournaments hosting in Africa, the socio-economic impact and legacies. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the session.
All right. Thank you very much, Sicho. Thank you very much, and good evening, or still afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. Someone tell my mother I made it, because Sicho just introduced me to the audience. But this is a very important session because we've hosted a lot of tournaments across the continent, and this will not be the end of it. We will still continue to host a lot of tournaments, either the African Cup of Nations, the All-African Games, or the African Games, and many of such tournaments. So there's the need for us to have the conversation on the social economic impacts of such tournaments. And if you are a bit old enough, and I'm sure a lot of you are, you remember Cannes 2008 and the projections we made for hosting that particular tournament. And one of the legacies is the Essipon Sports Stadium and its current state. So it's important to have this conversation and whether indeed this tournament impact our lives or not is important. And to help me have this conversation is someone I have great respect for, a medical doctor who has been at many tournaments. We were in Abidjan together. He's worked with FIFA, with Caf. He's currently the Black Stars, team doctor, and we all know him. Please, with a round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Pambo to join us have this conversation. Dr. Pambo is a man of many dimensions. Doctor, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. Yes, you can sit in the middle. I have the privilege of inviting someone whose name sounds Ghanaian, very Ghanaian, Peterking Quaye. But guess what? He's from Liberia. Oh. He also had his education in Ghana. I am told reliably that he's a classmate of Shatawale. A classmate of Shatawale and Felix Rumak here. So they were in basic school and junior high together. He schooled at Laboni, but currently he's gone back to Liberia. So he's Ghanaian, just like the two of us. If you introduce his name, I'm sure a lot of you guys here, if you introduce your name, we'll ask whether you're from Ghana or not, but he can say he's proudly Ghanaian. Peterking Quaye, thank you very much for joining us. So we will start, but of course, we are expecting the LOC chairman of the African Games to join us here on stage to have this conversation. So let me start with Dr. Pambo. So, okay, you can have this. Okay, the next one. Doc, I'm sure for you, when everybody involved in organizing a tournament is looking at the financial impact, the hard stuff, you have a different view and perspective to hosting such event. Talk us through, for you as a medical doctor, what you look out for when the country, a city is hosting a major tournament.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a platform that's not too strange to some of us. So when it comes to hosting tournaments, our General Secretary is just joining us. Prosper, welcome. When it comes to hosting tournaments, and I was happy you mentioned CAN 208, so let me just put it out there. If CAN 208 did not leave Ghana with anything, CAN 208 left Ghana with a doctor called Prince Pambo, who went to specialize in sports medicine and went ahead to do a subspecialty in sports cardiology.
Wow.
So just to tell you that my interest in sports medicine started after CAN 208. In fact, during and after.
Interesting.
So right after, then I decided to take it as a specialty.
Wow.
So, and I believe it's done, similar things for, I just met a younger colleague, I think he's in the audience, who just told me, look, I am in a sports medicine program because I heard you speak in 2013 during a tournament. So this is how it goes. Now, when it comes to hosting tournament, it depends on the cap I am wearing at the moment, or during the time the event will be taking place. If I am the team doctor or a federation doctor, there will be a different way I'll prepare for the event. If I'm part of the local organizing committee, which I believe is what we should be talking about. So for instance, if Ghana is supposed to be hosting a tournament, there will be a local organizing committee, and the local organizing committee would have a medical and anti-doping subcommittee. Normally it will be made up of doctors and other people from other specialties. So first of all, you would need to know the extent or the coverage of the tournament. How many countries are coming in? That's number one. Two, you would need to have a fair idea the health systems in your country to be able to take on the challenge that is coming. That's number two. And then you would need to give information out there to those coming on any prevalent disease conditions you would have in your country and the medical preparations they would need to have or put in place before coming. So if they need to take any kind of vaccinations, if they need to show any cards at the airport, if they need to run any basic medicals that you want, you put it out there to the various club or federation doctors, so they will prepare their teams very well. I mean, you have in mind not wanting to invite medical problems. For instance, I mean, we had COVID. We were able to host or play certain games within COVID. But during that time, you were going to ensure that anyone who was coming in was COVID-free. During COVID, I had the opportunity to be the medical consultant for the NBA, for Basketball Africa, and Rwanda, Kigali, hosted the maiden edition of the Basketball African League tournament, and I was the lead medical person there. And every single day, we're there for about 36 days. Every single day, everybody tested for COVID. Every single day. So, I mean, these were measures, and before we could do that, we needed to assess whether Kigali had the capacity to do over 5,000 COVID tests every single day for 30-something days. I mean, so those are the things you normally want to consider as a country from the medical angle of things before wanting to host any tournament. Of course, locally, you have to write to medical facilities within the catchment area where you'll be having your games, where the athletes will be lodging and all that. Then you designate all these facilities. You need to make sure your emergency medical services are all in place. So these are globally the considerations you need to put in place before attempting to want to host a tournament.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Let's go to the elephant in the room, Peterking. It is very easy for the West to tell us the impact of hosting major tournaments. So, for instance, the World Cup we had just had a World Cup in Qatar, and we are told that post-World Cup, over 300% of visitors have, gone back to Qatar, and the numbers are there for us to verify. Do we have such success stories on the continent post any tournament?
Well, thank you so much, and it's good to be in Ghana. Before I start, I would like to say hello from Liberia on behalf of the CEO and President of FC Fassell. They participated in the CAF competition last year, Mr. Anthony Quaye, who is the aspirant for the FA position in Liberia. And so we are here to we are happy to be part of this event today. And as you said, he was my classmate as well. But I attended UPSA in Ghana, and I did sports marketing as well. So just to go to the point, yes, there are a lot of stuff happens when there are tournament hosting in many countries. And Ghana hosted the CAN 2008, the World Cup in South Africa. You see there are always a shift of migration to those countries. But then we look at three things, at major pillars, which is the economic development, the economic growth of the country. We also look at the social development, and then we also look at the environmental, sustainability of the tournament as well. So, for example, in the AFCON in Ivory Coast, you realize that there were a lot of people flowing to Ivory Coast. It has so many impact on their tourism, and then also the infrastructure development that saw almost about a lot of money being chunked into the economy, almost about estimated by the African Development Bank of $500 million was injected into the economy based on these inflows of people. So those people come and have impact on your economy as in terms of bringing in money to spend there. And then you look at the idea of social development, looking at the social cohesion as well as the national pride that it brings to your country. When Ghana hosted the 2008 competition, you saw many Ghanaians were happy. Many people were buying Ghana jerseys across the world. And you look at the environmental sustainability aspect, which talks about, with respect to Ivory Coast, you realize that there was a project called the AFCON, Green AFCON, which looked at how to be environmentally friendly in terms of the climate change issue with respect to wastage that was happening. So these are all things that comes as a result of tournament hostings within this country. So you explore beyond just the inflows of people, and you look at the impact on the economy, you look at the impact on the environment as well as what it brings towards the economic of the country. That is it.
So Doc, we are talking about sports, and for you in the medical sector, are you able to, for instance, monitor people who fall in love with a particular sporting discipline after a major tournament that may impact the general health, well-being of the people? For instance, we just had the African Games in Ghana. How many people are running, after the African Games, and reducing the cost of medical bills in Ghana? Are we able to monitor that and see the social impact of such competitions?
Yeah, thank you again. So a lot would normally happen after such events. I'll just give you a quick example of something that happens after games. During lunch, I decided to do a quick dash to my office. Yesterday, some of my clients played, my MPs, members of parliament, played against Black Star players. And I knew the way they were playing, my clinic would be busy today. And Prince and Sicho decided to keep me here the whole day. So I had to run back, and one came. He was so impressed with himself, what he did yesterday, to the extent that, we have a gym right there. He said tonight he's hitting the gym. All right. So that's what sports does. So when for instance, the post-African Games, we had a lot of people wanting to go watch athletics. Right after that, the community kind of transforms, wanting to take physical activity as even a hobby or something they will have to do for a good life. For instance, after Canto 8, all the renovations that happened with Accra Sports Stadium, post that we had a very beautiful gym, if you've been there before, down there. All right, next to it was Tony Balfour's office. And from around 2009 up until probably some 4 years ago that we had to close the gym for renovation, from 3:30 p.m., if you got there, the place was full. And you had a lot of people running around the stadium complex, a lot of people in there and gymming. So some of these things, so the exercise culture, you get to see it explode when you host some of these. There is a negative impact that I would want to mention, which would be in the area of health as well. So when you don't put in measures, good measures in place to ensure that those who travel into your country are well screened, okay, and because the population, of course, would, explode, a lot of visitors will come in and all that, you would also have to deal with certain disease conditions post some of these events. So how do we mitigate that? That's how can we ensure people who are coming would come with some medical clearance, number one. Then number two, during these events, we would have our medical registers. Okay, so during the African Games, we had a whole Games Village polyclinic on campus. It was 24 hours and it was busy. Okay, so any kind of conditions people came with, we recorded. So then, and then we of course liaise with the public health department of the Ghana Health Service, so that if we pick up any strange disease condition, then we are able to alert our health surveillance system to let them know that, okay, we're having something like this breaking into our country. Also, one of the things we do is to, of course, safeguarding issues. So we ensure things like condoms are very much readily available everywhere. So wherever they are sleeping in their lockers, the various toilets at the competition venues or their halls of residence or wherever they are sleeping, just to make sure that whatever people would find themselves doing, they will do it responsibly. So those are some of the things. And of course, when it comes to surveillance, we also do injury surveillance post some of these events. Okay, so once people come in, engage in some of these activities, and because I work for Caf Medical Committee, for instance, after the AFCON in Abidjan, you would want to do an injury survey to find out how many injuries happened during the tournament, what were some of the causes of the injuries that were encountered. And of course, some of the reports we generate go far enough to even influence decisions when it comes to the game itself. Long ago, when you do this in football, it didn't attract a red card. Okay, but then medical research from FIFA Medical brought it that a lot of this will normally cause concussion and head injuries. So to deter players from doing that, because it was very easy for them to do it, to deter players from doing that, that became, I think it's a red card offense now. And we saw that it dropped over 90%. So those are some of the interventions you can put in place.
But again, one of the biggest issues with hosting big international competition is the maintenance of such facilities and the benefit it brings to the country. You know, we've done the African Games and Boteman is now there. We don't know what to do with Boteman. There are stories of, Gabon and other places host international, Nations Cup, for instance, and the facilities become white elephant. What should we be doing to be able to maximize this facility in terms of how much we put in and getting the full benefit of these investments?
Yeah, okay, thank you so much for that question. And for what I see, the idea of sustainability culture in Africa is very poor. And you look at it, even in Ghana, the last time I usually watch TV from Ghana, so I was shocked about, I think, either the Cape Coast Stadium or one of them.
Sipon,
yes.
Takrady.
The level of people not paying attention that it even exists, and the destruction of the stadium is not even, you cannot consider it as a stadium now because they've been very, very left to its own fate. And so what I think is there should be in the beginning a sustainability plan after the events that can help the local, community to take care of these assets that is important for future use, and it can be transformed to a legacy project where you find out that youth programs can be hosted there. Because in that particular, at a region, yes, because from where I come from is county, so from that region, I think most of these football clubs that do not have their own pitches could use the FA to the National Sports Council, authority. Is it council authority? Yeah. Is at the authority to actually assess these venues so that it can be put to use. Because once these big tournaments finish and nobody goes there, it's like it's a ghost camp. But with this method of giving it to the local sports clubs that are existing there, I think they will put it into good use, take care of it, cleaning, constant maintenance of it. So the culture of maintenance in Africa after this bigger tournament leaves a lot of question mark, and I feel it's hard time that when the LOCs meet, the transition from post-tournament is key to include in their plan, because it will help to increase the assets for the country as well, because there are huge sums of money that the taxpayer pay to put these things up. So for it to be left because it's not being used for bigger tournament again, it raises a lot of questions. That are we thinking about the people that, in that particular community should benefit from it, or we just doing it because once the tournament hits the ground, we get the cash, we get the people, that is all? No, we need to think about who can have this as a gift. So I think there should be another plan to say, well, if it's in Cape Coast, okay, the people of Cape Coast, this is a gift for you, keep it well. Let's see how we can work with it in the next future for the future development of talents here. I feel it's the best way to do or to go about it.
And I have a very interesting story to share. Last week I went to Boteman to check out a property, at Boteman, and land that was selling for 25,000 some years back is now selling for $30,000 now. Yes. So do we as people benefit from such tournaments?
That is it. So the value of that area in terms of land purchase because of that hosting of the tournament has just shot up massively. That tells you that it's a blessing to you. So nobody in that community should allow that particular facility to also go bare, because it's now a landmark where when you go on Google to search, you find it first before you find the next houses that were there before it. So we need to see this thing as legacy. And when when the legacy is something you cannot joke with, because it reflects on the community and the people who live there. So I feel it's a very, very good intervention that, yes, it goes there for you to get the right, coverage or attention from the country. Everybody now know about Boteman because this is what happened. People from across Africa came to that particular spot. So I feel it's very, very important that what is there should have a way to be kept for future generation or put to proper use by a local club. There was a handball, there's football, futsal, all these things must now, if government cannot turn attention to it, the National Sports Authority or Council should also find ways for people to be interested in using those disciplines to make good of it.
Dr. Pambo, I want to pick your thought on this one because you are well traveled, you've covered a lot of tournaments. How do we as a country and as a continent protect the legacy of hosting such tournaments or competitions like the African Games and the Nations Cup?
Yeah, thank you again. So from the medical angle of things and the legacies we see post some of these events. You mentioned the exercise culture. So when you host such events, you are forced to develop infrastructure. So people who would be looking for places to exercise would be in the position to have easy access to it. I think some 2-3 years back, maybe the only place our athletes could go and train was Elwak.
Yeah.
Now we have Legon come up, and I'm sure it was because of the African Games we were forced to make sure that we have a stadium there. And right after that, we were now in a good position to host a Wafu Zone B under 17 tournament as well. So people are now exercising and will have a place to. The other legacies from the medical side, before I come to how we protect it, will even be human resource. Like I said, I was a product of CAN 208, all right, so we didn't know much about sports medicine. Then it happens, you interact with colleagues. I interacted with a professor who came from Sudan, and that was it, okay? Now, how do we sustain, because other people follow through, how do you sustain some of these things? I mean, he touched on it. If we leave it all to a government drive, or government leading the drive, then we're surely going to fail. Accra Sports Stadium Gym, it's been closed for the past 4 years.
4 years.
Okay. It was generating income, but it was in quite a very big port, if I should use the word. And when the port is so big and everything goes in, later when you are needing funds to do the maintenance, you don't find it. I personally believe the way out will be to engage a lot more private sector to come into this space, okay, so that government would commit to other things as well. I mean, there's an area private sector will be very, interested in, okay, to invest in that and protect whatever we normally would benefit from post hosting events. Now, if I come to the human resource bit, Boteman, we mentioned, I was part of the subcommittee for the African Games, and one of the legacies was supposed to be that Boteman will be a sports university as well. We don't know how that is going to pan out, and we have a lineup of young doctors who are ready to take up or to specialize in the area of sports medicine, or probably just go do a diploma program in all that. So if the sporting industry collaborates well with academia as well, because academia does well when it comes to sustaining projects, okay? And of course, this facility is our own facility, the Ghana Physicians and Surgeons. You're right. And we do a lot of these developments and these trainings. So I think good collaboration between private sector, the public sector, academia, coming into this space should be a way to protect whatever legacy we would have.
Mr. Quaye, do you think that some African countries do well in protecting the legacy of hosting tournament than others?
Yes.
I'm just looking at South Africa in hosting the World Cup, and some countries hosting the Nations Cup.
Very, very well. You look at the likes of South Africa. I'm not sure. Maybe the coverage have not shown us yet. But then, if all things being equal, I think they've done a lot of work in terms of since hosting the World Cup. That saw about $5 billion transfer into the economy in 2010. You look back to the projects they undertook for the implementation of the games, they are still being put to good use. And these are all legacy projects that they look back to, that we invested the taxpayer money into this structure. We still see it being used in Bloemfontein. You see the likes of in Amazulu, all those teams, Super Sports, Mamelodi Sundowns. These are all being used for their local national league matches. So I feel after the hosting, the FA in these countries can help to work with government, as Doctor just said. A very perfect strategic public-private partnership plan should be put in place, even maybe before the onset, so that it's easily forced in that we are not planning for immediate today, we are planning for the future, that there are generations that are going to come. The money we see, we all pay in our countries, are money that our future generation should benefit. These are our taxpayer money that their father today is paying for the future. So I feel there's a lot to be done. More of cautioning the LOC to work, collaboratively with government, work with key private sector that into facility management. So there's a flow, and big of it is job creation. Sustainable job creation is key. You look at the likes of the All-African game that in Cameroon, there were almost about 15,000 jobs created because of that hosting of the event there. These people, if they don't have everlasting daily bread, at least for that period, it could be something that will impact them for their generation. So these are things that we believe that the hosting of tournaments in these countries is a blessing in disguise, and the local economy will see nothing else but a good chunk of investment that will need a lot of protection of it, because it's for today, tomorrow, and the future.
I would like to pick John Boafo's thought on this one, because when I went to Alassane Ouattara Sports Stadium, I thought it was quite out of town. There are new roads to the venue. What's the plan in sustaining that infrastructure? Because it is huge, really, really huge. Is there a plan to protect the legacy of the Nations Cup, for instance? I know the Ohene Bampoe Sports Stadium is in the center of town, so it's quite easy. But for Alassane Ouattara and other venues, is there a plan from the government to protect such huge investments in there?
So I can't speak specifically for the Mbimpe Stadium, but they built other stadiums around. So they built the training stadiums. They usually had, well, each team had their own training stadiums. And I know that the leagues from the Ligue 1 to Ligue 2 to Ligue 3 have access to the stadium. So more recently, I was a general manager of a team that played in the 3rd division, and we played on such facilities. And I know they're going to use and continue to use those facilities. And then they also use the bigger stadiums for bigger teams like ASEC Mimosas and some of the other bigger teams. But I know that the plan is to go around and use those stadiums also for the national teams. So more recently, they had a game all the way up in the north in Korogo, which was one of the stadiums that they renovated and they built for that. I know that that's one of the plans to not only stay in the 2 stadiums in Abidjan, but also move around quite a bit. They had done this actually before the AFCON. They went to San Pedro to play some matches over there. So definitely most of these stadiums and most of these facilities that have been built are going to be used. I was just having a conversation earlier with Daniel, and I was telling him, like you mentioned, Gabon is one of those things which is a case study as to what not to do after these tournaments, because you go to Gabon and you see these beautiful stadiums and they're just left there to rot, and it's sad. In one of the previous conversations that we had, we talked about putting the stadiums in the middle of the community. These stadiums need to be used. If you're not going to use it for football or something else, maybe have weddings there, do parties or something, but they need to be used, because all this investment that you put in it shouldn't go to waste like in Gabon.
Thank you very much, John. I don't know if Dr. Pambo would like to add something to what we just said in terms of putting those facilities to good use and not allow them to rot away.
Yeah, I mean, like he rightly put it, if you gauge and you realize that just the sporting industry wouldn't be very capable of using these facilities, then of course you could look at engaging broader. Of course, we see our facilities being used for other events, but normally we don't agree it gets used very well. I normally would hear you and Sicho criticize our sports authorities for not carpeting the grass before events. So yes, I think we try to do that, but we should learn to do it the right way. And I would always preach for school sports as well. We should open up, some of these stadia to the younger ones, allow the schools to come and have school sports there where we can pick some of these talents going forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pambo. Thank you very much, Mr. Quaye. Our time is up. We're having fun, but our time is up. Sicho, please take it away.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please give it up for them. Brilliant stuff.